Folks, we are in Dallas, Texas, Frisco, and I'm sitting with Agnus Flores. Agnus, for listeners, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I am a rancher's wife. I live in South Texas, and I am glad to be at this Reawakening conference and finding out more truths and information. And I had visited with the ranchers, the Warriors
Ranchers. Okay.
And
Mike Miller.
Mike Miller.
You went to his website?
Actually, he was one of the presenters yesterday.
Okay.
And so it was like, I want to talk to him and let him know some of the things that are happening in our property and some of the issues that we have with some of the illegal
trafficking, immigration,
drugs, whatever that comes through the ranch and the property. Where our property is what they call the no man's land or triangle. The Border Patrol area that services our area is quite far away. The closest one to us is not under their jurisdiction. So the particular triangle where our property is, there's a lot goes on.
What county is this, Agnus?
Well, it's in Duval County in South Texas.
And how long have you owned the property?
Well, it's been in the family for years, and when I married my husband, it was part
years,
of
meaning decades or a couple centuries?
Probably 80 years or so.
Long time, okay. And it's a cattle ranch, or?
Yes.
So, how did you hear about the Reawakening tour? Was it through, yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I follow a lot of the different speakers that are here and realized that it was coming. I'd seen the one in Colorado and thought that'd be kind of neat, but it was quite far. And I actually came to Dallas because I have family here and it was easier to come up here and visit while I was here.
Okay, great, fantastic. Okay, so look, we are familiar with Mike Miller and his work, and he has been on this program. So talk about what you're seeing firsthand happen on your ranch. How far are you from the border?
Oh, we're probably about 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Almost 2 hours from the border, but that doesn't stop them coming through the ranch area and up, and they come up.
2.5 hours by foot, or 2.5 hours
by vehicle.
By vehicle, okay.
But Texas is a large state, so they come through because they're on their way through to Houston or to San Antonio or Chicago or New York, whatever. So there's very few arteries as you come up the state. So they either come over from El Paso area or they're coming up through Reynosa, Brownsville,
And they're coming. They're passing through your property by vehicle or by foot.
Well, there's both. Actually.
They're doing both.
Because we've had, we have a lot of bailouts and have had for years. There's been a lot of drug trafficking through there. They'll take out the fences, and the last one here just a couple of weeks ago had separated the barbed wire fence, and we know they had crawled through, and there were like backpacks and clothes and socks and things that are left along the way. So they're both.
Okay, and again, how large is the property? How many acres?
Well, we have probably 3/4 of a section, but it's not all together. So we have little areas, 125 here, 100 there. So there's different in the area, but different plots.
Okay. Do you have security, surveillance? You have a wire, you have a fence. Do you have security? Do you have a patrol of any type monitoring the property? Highway
Patrol, Border Patrol put up a camera outside the main ranch property. The reality is that we don't live on the ranch, but my mother-in-law does, and she's 82 years old and she's been there for quite
living
a long
alone?
time. Yes, and so she's afraid. We've had.
She's got a gun.
Well, she does, but she's got a big dog too.
Okay.
We've got bullet holes that are in her garage door. They shoot out the lights around the house at nights. The dogs go crazy. And so she is afraid, and she's been afraid, and it's hard for someone at that age to be afraid. My husband spends quite a bit of time there at the ranch, and will spend the night there about half of the week and then come home. So it's a problem because we don't know what's happening out there. My husband's been trailed. He'll go down to his ranch property, and there will be a highway patrol stop him, ask him what he's doing, where's his property. I've got sons who like to hunt, a daughter, son-in-law. They know all of our tags. They know what vehicles we drive. We know if we belong there or we don't belong there. And just recently, we had an incident where my husband had taken an alternative route to the ranch, because it's about an hour and a half drive from where we live, and it was a highway department come and followed him, highway patrol, and when he got to the end of the road that connected with the main highway to go to the ranch, he put his lights on, and so got out to talk to my husband, and he's like, well, what did I do? And he said, oh, I know, wanted to know why he had taken that alternative road. And it was like, well, I drive a diesel, I drive slower on this road, and so I'm saving fuel. But the thing is, he was texting us, the family, in a group text, and saying he was real friendly and all that. But my question is, why are you always being tailed? And it's not the first time. He's been taken out by officers chasing bailouts or drug runners, and this just happened on the 7th, so that was real soon, not very long ago. And
a couple days ago.
Right, and about 2 weeks ago, there were vehicles on the side of the road checking him out, following him, watching him as he come out the turn road from his property, because like I said, we have several that he has to check the cattle. And, some have said, well, you should feel safe because they're watching you. Well, I don't know that I feel safe, that they know, because they mentioned that they knew where he lived, they knew the road that he goes on. We know who you are.
The highway patrolman said.
Yes. And so that's
a little invasive.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it is.
And how does your husband feel about that?
Well, at first it was like, well, it's okay, but let me just read you, because I have the text message right here that he was sending to the family, which is real interesting.
Your husband?
My husband. So my husband says, just got stopped by the highway patrol. And then my son-in-law says, get a ticket. And then my daughter says, what did you do? And my husband says, nothing. He wanted to know why I took the shortcut instead of going to this area, a little town.
Do you want to refrain from mentioning that?
I do, because I'm not sure how safe people are, that we really are. And he said, instead of going down the highway. And so then my daughter says, well, did you tell him it was shorter to go that way? And I said, yes, and it saves diesel because it's expensive. And then my daughter asked him, what did you tell him then? And he said, well, he said that he knew my place, he knew the road it was, and the county road. And then he left. And then...
It sounds like an unlawful detaination. But nonetheless...
Then I said, he shouldn't be telling you like that. It's not right. And then my son says, that's weird. And my husband blows it off and says, well, at least I had a chance to meet the trooper.
And what was his name?
The trooper?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm sure my husband got it. But
Okay.
He didn't print it.
But for sure it was a Texas State Trooper.
That's what he said in the text. Yeah.
And there was no harassment. There was simply...
just pulling him over. Why did you take this road? Which, that's not normal in my mind.
To stop an individual and inquire.
Why are you driving down this road? Oh yeah, I know who you are. I know where your property is. And that's a little odd. So they're watching.
But who's they? Because the highway patrol's watching.
The highway patrol, that's what I'm saying. So what else is going on, I don't know. Is it something that...
Is the cartel also watching?
Well, I'm sure.
Is the highway patrol working for the cartel?
Well, those are questions I can't answer, but, the thoughts in the back of my mind that something's not right here. Because it's not the first time it's happened that he's been stopped for doing nothing.
What was the other time?
He was coming down off of the ranch road to hit the main highway roll, and then there was an officer waiting for him when he came out and pulled him over and asked him what he was doing down that road. And it's like, well, we have property over there. And it's like, okay. and you are so and so, and your your house is there. And he said, well, yes. This is, oh, okay. But just odd conversations like that, making sure that we know, they know where we are, or maybe so something else is going on that we aren't aware of. I don't know.
Okay, so does your husband currently work with the local law enforcement in regards to reporting?
Well, they do when there are bailouts that call, or when fences are out and we need help, or there's suspect vehicles on the side of the road that shouldn't be there in this area. So he calls the local sheriff's office in order to report that. Highway Patrol, no.
Do you find that odd that the Highway Patrol is patrolling that area in that way?
Right.
Do you consider that to be more of a sheriff jurisdiction rather than the Highway Patrol? Or do you think it's odd that there's even a patrol of any sort there?
Well, it's okay to have a patrol with the foot traffic and the bailouts that go through. So there needs to be somebody checking on things. Highway Patrol, it's not a big highway. It's little roads. Your little highway.
2-lane?
Oh yeah, 2-lane.
It's 2-lane. It's a 2-lane highway.
2-lane. Yeah, little roads. So for the Highway Patrol to be out there, that's
eating donuts, drinking coffee. Not a whole lot of activity going on out there.
That's right.
But he knows at least that there's some traffic going on.
Oh yeah.
What are you seeing firsthand, Agnus? What are you seeing on your property? And how long have you been seeing this?
Oh, ever since we've been married, we've had issues with bailouts and illegals.
And bailouts are what again?
Well, when a coyote brings people through and they're being chased by the cops or stopped, maybe there's narcotics or drugs, and they pull over and they all bail out and they run off into the brush. And this
will happen on your property?
Oh yeah, we've had many fences taken out and done, and it's always the rancher's problem to have to repair everything, to do everything, because there is no help when you have that activity going on all the time. And it's not cheap to restring barbed wire fence.
Right. Yeah, and does it happen once a year?
Oh, more often than that.
More often than that?
Oh, absolutely. We have an incident probably, if not once a month, every other month. It's not like it just happens on a rare occasion. There's lots of things go on in that area. And if it's not his property, it's his brother's property, or it's relative's property. So.
And there's no, and the owners don't want to sell. They're happy with the land that they own.
Well, that's their livelihood. It's not like anybody makes a lot of money and, they're raising their cattle and, doing their thing. So that's their livelihood.
So you're seeing with your own eyes, Agnus, you're seeing illegal immigration. You're seeing drug trafficking?
Well, as far as personally,
yeah.
I get the story from my husband, but yes, there is that what goes on, or the reports from, the law enforcement or the relatives that are there that have talked. But yes.
Okay, so what do you think is happening? Do you see a difference right now compared to when Trump was in office? Are you seeing an acceleration of this? Is it the same pace?
There's probably an acceleration of the foot traffic. We've seen more clothing and things left behind by people who have gone through than we did before. Back in the day, a lot of the people, because they feel very, they're heartfelt for the individuals coming over, and a lot of ranchers would leave like some food tied up in like a kerchief or water or something for them to come through. There were water stations, but that's not something we did. Now, we've had cartels stop at the ranch, want to use the phone or use the restroom or whatever. And of course, my mother-in-law knows a lot better than to let them in. But or they want to spend the night. Can we stay in the garage? So we've had, and that's probably as recent as maybe June or July. Stop and wanted to stay. So that's not something we welcome.
Should open up a hotel.
You're right.
Why are there bullet holes? Are they trying to intimidate her?
I don't know. I would think so because, yeah, and that was done this year also. I said the holes put in it's a metal garage door. And last year before, I think they shot out, the lights around the ranch. Now, my husband did get a camera to watch, but they didn't see anybody. I mean, I don't know if they detected it or it just was a quiet time when they had it active. So right now, there's not a camera.
Do you feel that the Highway Patrol's monitoring, but they don't seem to be effective in their monitoring?
They are monitoring, effective or not, because I don't know what all else goes on over there. You only know when it happens, and they don't tell you. Everything's kind of secret. I just don't know whether they're monitoring because they're part of the issue, or they're monitoring because they're trying to stop something.
What do you think?
I think there's been both. It's Duval County. It's got a nice reputation for drug running and some issues going on.
And it has corrupt law enforcement?
Yeah, it has for years. Whether it's still that way, I don't want to say that it is, but...
And what's the cartel that's primarily running and using your property as a...
Well, it would be the Mexican cartel.
And you're not sure which one? Perhaps...
They're all scary. This cartel are all very scary.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they carry guns. They would threaten. They would take you out if you're not careful. So, yeah, it's that threat all the time, and I worry about my husband.
You see these people, Agnus?
I do not, because I'm not down there that much.
But your husband's seen.
Oh, yeah.
But he's also armed. He's carrying a gun.
He didn't until just a couple years ago. And
Interesting.
We finally felt strong enough that 3 years ago, that was his Christmas present, I made sure he has a pistol that he can carry because he didn't used to. But that's happened since everything just started to change.
What do you think? What do you think is happening? Are these simply? It's kind of. There's a couple different things. There's a few different things happening, right? There are Mexicans that are entering the United States for a better life, but then there's also these cartels, right, that are purposely smuggling illegal drugs into the country for profit, to make money. Are there issues that you're seeing or your husband's seeing in regards to child trafficking?
Well, because of the clothing left behind, there are children's clothing and women's clothing. And, you don't take people by foot. It's 2 hours by vehicle there. And if they're on foot that way, these people are suffering. It's not okay.
What has been your dialogue with Warriors for Ranchers? Have they?
I just met them today and was talking, and so Mr. Miller was very gracious, very interested. He would like to go down and see for himself and do some surveillance and kind of get some evidence. And like I said, there are problems, but without having all of the evidence, it's really not right for me to say they're bad or they're good with the police officers. I just think it's very odd and that it ought to be investigated.
Okay, and define it. What's it? What needs to be investigated? Stopping
my husband for no reason, and then owning up to the fact that they know where the property is, what he drives, where they think he ought to be, or why are you on a road that they haven't seen him go down before. Those are really odd.
So it sounds like right now, Agnus, that you're most concerned about the local law enforcement, and really, you'd like to know if they are working with the cartel or if they're just simply not effective in stopping. Because it doesn't sound like they're doing that. They're pulling over an innocent landowner instead of...
And the fact that they know that he is a landowner, so why? Do they not want him to see something else going on? That would be my question.
And what does your husband think, Agnus? What does he feel? Does he feel that these people are corrupt, these law agencies are corrupt?
He tries to mind his own business because he worries about his mother's health, his mother's life. He worries about his own self being taken out. So if you don't press the issue, you can live. It is that serious. So he tries not to rock the boat, answer what questions, so that he can take care of his cows and his mother.
Yeah. Do you have any support locally with other landowners down there? Anybody working together, or a coalition that's organizing? Do you have anybody that are you doing that with?
To my knowledge, there's not a coalition right there. Like you said, it's relatives, people he's known all his life. He grew up in the area, so they talk and communicate as far as anything that's been pulled together for trying to deal with it or do something. I don't know that they've done that.
Has your husband filed a complaint with the patrol?
Well, no, because they stopped him. I mean, he didn't think because they were friendly that he ought to file a report back. So
maybe he'll consider that. Yeah, maybe consider that, and then also notify the sheriff that the highway patrol's doing this in his jurisdiction, right? Because the sheriff has certain legal obligations that separate him from the highway patrol that works for the state, and the sheriff is, of course, protecting his county. What would you like to see happen, Agnus? What would you like to see happen? Obviously, you'd like to see the trafficking stopped, right? You'd like to see the illegal immigration stopped. Is that correct? You'd like to see that stopped?
Well, that's obvious. I think the main thing is that there should be an atmosphere created where people can feel safe, and where this ongoing, what I consider a harassment from our law enforcement stops. You know, because that's what it feels like.
It's a harassment, yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes you suspicious toward his validity.
Absolutely.
It's an unlawful stop. There's no speeding. There was no law being broken.
Exactly.
It was a highway patrolman being snooping, and he's anyway. Okay, and the last question, Agnus, I suppose. Obviously, the federal government. Do you think that the immigration, the illegal immigration, do you feel that the border security, do you feel that that's a little out of control?
Oh, it's way out of control. There is so much work for this poor border patrol and the people who are taking care of what's going on, that when you work with one issue down there, then the drug smugglers come from behind. If you're chasing the drug smugglers, then the people, the human trafficking.
Wow.
So there's not enough humanity to feed and clothe and shelter, provide medical issues for these people, much less process them correctly. You know, and they're bringing them in, and they're bringing them into our cities, and it's like, why do we fly them to Chicago? Why do we fly them to the East Coast? Why do we fly these people? You can go to some of the border cities like Laredo or I don't know, McAllen, some of it, but these people are put on planes.
McAllen.
And they're flown out. And it's like, why are you doing that? You know, and the money that's going towards these children, the separated families, these people don't even know who these kids belong to. They're picked up along the way in traffic, and it's just such a farce.
And the Mexican government's obviously not helping slow that down.
Can you imagine how overwhelmed they must be? I mean, you have to look at the whole picture, and it's not pretty. We need to work together, but we need to stop who's ever flying these people in from Haiti. I mean, they didn't walk across the ocean, you know, coming up from way South America. They're being bused, they're being trucked. So why stop?
Well, why do you think it is happening? Why do you think the federal government is bringing these people in and flying them around? And why do you think it's happening?
Well, I don't know why our federal government would be doing it, but they're tearing up the country. I mean, if you want, we're all a land of immigrants, obviously, but bring them in.
Well, law and order is a different thing, isn't it? Law and order
them in correctly.
Regardless, right.
Right. And crime is everywhere, obviously, but not at the rate that it comes across the border. And, of course, the drugs that are being brought into the country is horrible. So what can we do as citizens? We need to protect our property and protect our families and change our legislation.
Well, okay, so let me ask you a question. I mean, it was appalling for me, right? I mean, so it was appalling for me. I started doing this work in 2016 after the Zika virus. But Agnus, before that, I never questioned the government. I just simply never questioned the government. I figured everything that we were told was very well vetted, and they'd done their research. But then after I found some idiosyncrasies in the Zika virus in Miami and the pesticide being sprayed, I said, oh, wait a second here. There's a highly credible source out of Stanford that is exposing some of this banking corruption that's running D.C. So then I started looking at things in a totally different light. And at the same time, now we have an acting president of the federal union saying your mainstream media is fake news. And I thought, well, wait a second, CNN is fake? We have a constitution. It says freedom of media, freedom of press. How can it be fake? Fox News is fake. He says fake news. And then he starts talking deep state.
Yeah, I've never heard the term before, right?
Never heard it. Yeah, I mean, as much as we may have disagreed with some of the things Obama did, still it was like, okay, he was a president, so respect him because he's the president. All right, he's cordial, he's diplomatic. But then there you have Trump just going the other direction, even further the other way than Bush was, right? Just now he's almost saying your country is a mockery. So Agnus, what is there any validity to him saying deep state in your view? Is that what was that? What is the deep state? Is this something that exists? I mean, we know there's corruption there's corruption everywhere.
Well, but I think it's the deep state being the liberals who are trying to control the narrative. What they say and what they do are two different things. And the money that goes in to try to flip people to some of these narratives is not okay. I think that it's to weaken America, the border situation, the bringing the folks in, it's to weaken America. It's to continue the nefarious activity of the trafficking. It's bringing the drugs in, ruining our children, so they can take down the United States. Someone in our political government, and a lot of someones, do not like the United States. They don't like what we stand for. They don't like the fact that we are a land of the free and of the people, and they want to be a government-run country, socialist. I mean, we've seen ourselves come, and you and I have, over the years, to a more communist way, and if we don't stop it, that's where it's going to be.
And so you think this is being primarily ran through, well, I mean, that seems to be apparent, the Democrat Party, the liberal agenda, but we're also seeing this surface in the Republican Party. So both parties kind of have this new concept of what they want America to become.
They want us to be controlled to this one world order, which I had never heard the term. It had leaked out with Bush Sr. It had leaked out, but it never really stuck until all of a sudden it's like this one world order, the WHO.
But it's written in Latin on the back of the dollar bill.
Exactly. But we were never really
taught that.
Right. Exactly.
And that's been around since FDR.
It's been around since him, and but it takes a long time to move a country to make a change. And I think we're right at the precipice right now, and that we have to make a difference, all of us, or I wouldn't be talking to you today. You see,
right, a turning point.
Trump always said, if you see something, say something. I see something.
And you're saying something.
I'm speaking out. Can I accuse someone? I don't have that kind of evidence, but I can see what doesn't add up.
And does your sister have some words she'd like to contribute and say?
She's from the Dallas area. So.
Okay. Got it. Take a moment and say a few words. So what I'm introducing here is Audrey's sister, Agnes' sister. And Agnes, please introduce yourself.
I'm Elaine. I live in the Dallas area. And I guess a lot of this started to become more real when Agnus was sharing her stories about the border.
And when was that?
Probably a year and a half, 2 years ago.
And so what did Elaine? What did you think when your sister started sharing these stories with you? What were the first thoughts that went through your mind?
Well, I think I was shocked that our government would allow that kind of open border where anybody can come in, without restrictions, because you can't go into any other country. Because I've lived in Germany, and my husband was military, and you do not walk across any border, much less drive across, without a lot of paperwork. And so it was very surprising that our government would allow this
open border. Yeah, almost open border. And the two of you are Texas natives?
Yes.
Have you seen, since you were children, have you seen a change?
Absolutely.
What's happened?
Well, we grew up in the Texas Panhandle, and so we had migrant workers all the time. And as far as
Panhandle is Galveston? No.
Amarillo
area. And so, we were used to the Hispanic culture and the migrant worker, but the illegal situation, most of these, we didn't have that problem. I moved to South Texas, and you started seeing in the restaurants, this is before Trump was even in, a lot of people paid their employees under the table because they didn't have a Social Security number, money and all that. And that was always understood. Everybody knew that. But now the situation has gotten a lot stricter, and then that kind of activity where families have brought family members over and taking care of each other is one thing. But the amount of drugs coming across and the human trafficking was never really aware of it as much as we are now. I think that's been a big change.
And was this increase? When did you see the most amount of increase? Has it been since Trump's left office? Did you see it back with Obama, Bush?
Well, actually, it started with Trump because that's when they started putting the caravans together and they started bringing him up. It was to derail him as president. It started literally as he became our president, our 45th president.
So when he started talking about building a wall, that's when they ramped up their efforts to invade.
Yes.
It's an invasion. It's an invasion. There's no doubt about it. It's an invasion. And it's starting, let me ask you this question. Why did Kamala Harris go down to Guatemala? Before going to the Texas border, why did she go to Guatemala?
What deal was she making? So I have to ask. I mean, it wasn't anything to do with stopping trafficking. Obviously, something would have been said or done. So does that mean they're promoting it, pushing it, assisting it, helping it? That would be my question.
Okay, let me ask you this. So I believe it's in McAllen where there is a refugee center. It's a religion. It's a refugee center, but it's openly accepting these illegal immigrants, bathing them, clothing them, giving them money, and then paying for their transportation elsewhere, like you're saying, Chicago, San Francisco. They're abiding and abetting to fraud and criminality. Are there any such organizations that you know of that are doing this conduct right now in Texas?
Well, I think there are places all over the state that are allowing them to come in, but any of them I know have been set up by the government, the Border Patrol, or whatever, or religious groups basically to help them because, they brought them in. As far as aiding and abetting and getting them somewhere, it's not an underground railroad. That is all open, out in the open. It's not like the days of history we know about. It's all in the open.
It's all in the open.
Yes.
And Elaine, in Dallas, are you seeing a change in the city? Is Dallas typically normal? Is it regular, or is it being infected and impacted?
Well, I think it's the biggest effect that I see is with employment. Nobody wants to work anymore.
Because of the pandemic, right? Because of this, or was it before that?
No. I think the pandemic's an excuse. But also
An excuse to not work.
An excuse to not work. And I think there's more people getting money from the government, so why should they work? And I hear that a lot. Why should we work when we can sit at home and get money for free?
We can be paid to be vaccinated, right? We get hamburgers and
Yeah.
Do you think that the pandemic is do you suspect that there might be some foul play in regards to the pandemic itself? I mean, look, again, I never questioned the government, right, until I was exposed to the Zika virus in Miami. But then I says, oh, wait a second, hold on.
There isn't a pandemic. It's a plandemic.
It's a plandemic.
Yeah.
You're saying, Agnus, that it's a plandemic. It's a plan. It's a planned, engineered, designed pandemic.
You know, even the Psaki, the press secretary, said those words in one of her press conferences that you can see a clip of it. She called it a plandemic, and I think that slipped. It's definitely been planned. This whole thing was not natural. It's not a natural occurrence of any mutation.
Who's planned it?
Well, I would start with Dr. Fauci. I believe that this is part of that one world government. It's part of the same cabal that's trying to bring the folks across the border. It's about the takedown of America. This one is takedown of the world, actually. They want to control us.
So there's a woman named Lisa Logan out of Utah, and she's organized a very effective parental movement to clean out the filth, the curriculum that's now moving into the public school system. And I asked her this question. I says, she's mentioning a program called CASTLE, C-A-S-T-L-E, and then also core curriculum. Now, I'm not familiar with these things. And I asked her, I says, well, are these American? Are these being created in D.C.? And she says, no, absolutely not. These are being pushed in by the United Nations.
Yes.
So would it make sense to say that the United Nations somehow is a rogue entity and is possibly behind a global, like you're saying, a new world order, a global control, an effort to control the civilizations and economies globally? Could it possibly be that this is coming from the United Nations?
Well, I think more than just that. I think it's coming from certain, probably old world families who are still around and has a lot of money.
Like who?
You know, the name is thrown out of Soros. I tend to think, and he's been blamed for paying for a lot of the illegal migration problem.
And the BLM, right? He's connected to BLM and Antifa.
And all of that. But
and BLM is openly saying we want a communist-style government. They're making no bones about it, like you're saying.
But there's probably some people who I would consider incognito that Soros works for. I don't think we know the whole story. And I think that as our Lord and Savior helps us here on this earth and start exposing and opening things up, that we're gonna learn more. And I think we're still gonna be more shocked as it moves forward. We're not done yet. We're at the beginning.
Sounds like you ladies might just be getting started.
I think so.
Huh?
It's very possible.
Okay, so we'll wind down, and I thank you for your time. Elaine, leave listeners with some final thoughts, some final words. And it can be whatever you feel, but just you're talking to America, and I'll insert this. I never thought I'd start this, but when I did, I began getting former CIA John Kiriakou, Ray McGovern, former White House officials, Paul Craig Roberts, who's got a fellow from Oxford and Stanford. These are highly well-educated, trained, and they wanted to join and speak to this type of platform because their voices were not being heard on mainstream media. So typically now, people are listening to the average everyday American because they're realizing that this fake news that Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, it's real. So as you speak to listeners, leave them with something you want them to walk away with.
Well, just from my personal experience, I think the main thing would be prayer is number one. We've got to do more prayer, and we've got to listen. And I think we need to listen with our hearts to what God's trying to tell us that we need to do to help this. Everybody has a different gift, and many times we're not willing to go out there and do something. But if you listen to your heart and God's putting something on your heart to do, you need to go ahead and step out in faith and start the process, and God will help you.
Agnus, is your country at war?
Absolutely. It's war internally, but it's a war, a spiritual war. I think that we have to get the devil out of it, and we have to bring God in.
What would you like listeners to walk away with?
I would like them to know that they need to start at home, love their families, love the communities that they live in, and to share and not only open their hearts, open their wallets, open caring in every way possible, because that's how we started as a United States. We came together as a few people settling the country, and they
Protestants, right?
together.
Mayflower, the Pilgrims were Protestants, weren't
Well, they were Christians, and I think more than just naming a denomination or anything, that they were Christians. They were Christ-led.
Free spirits.
Christ-led. And as she said, you step out and you do something you didn't think you were going to do. Like I didn't think I would ever be doing this podcast. But, we allow the Lord to guide us, and that's what everyone should take to heart. And if they're not a Christian, they better go find out who the big man is.
Agnus and Elaine, thank you for joining Discussions of Truth.